Welcome back to another video. So, as I'm sure you can tell from the intro montage, we are building another manifold for Boostin performance for the Red Demon. So if you guys are not familiar with the Red Demon, it is a 2G DSM, the world's quickest and fastest, and the world's first 6-second all-wheel drive 4-cylinder. There are all of the time slip specs right there. And I had built a manifold for this car before, and they're back for another one now. So before we get into what exactly is going on with this new manifold, let's go ahead and watch a few clips of the Red Demon in action so you guys can see just how crazy this car is.
Let's go!
So I had built a manifold for the Demon, I don't know, a year or two ago, something along those lines. And I took this same manifold that I have in my hand right now and built a new design for it. So what I did is I changed up the orientation of the primaries, changed a few things to make it really my own design, and they went out and went really, really fast with that car, or with that manifold. Now they contacted me again and asked for another manifold, but this time we're building essentially a 1-to-1 scale replica of this manifold. And the reason for that is the primaries on this manifold are much straighter and much more direct to the collector and the turbine than the manifold that I had built for it. So they want to experiment with this and see if this design, the straighter primaries and all of that, is more effective, and they asked me to build one, and I said, of course, I'll build you another one. So we're going to change up a couple of little odds and ends with this new manifold, namely the material that it is made out of and the wastegates. And all that stuff is over in the fab room. So material-wise, the old manifold, I believe, is either Schedule 10 or Schedule 40 304 stainless, and we are using 321 stainless. The primaries will be all Schedule 5, which is what all these larger elbows are right here. The collector is Schedule 10, which is what this section of straight pipe is right here, as well as these 4 elbows that I'll use to make the wastegate provisioning. We have a nice stainless head flange, stainless T4 twin scroll turbine flange. We have a number 4 AN bung for a back pressure sensor, 4 EGT bungs, and EGT bung reinforcement washer deals. This should be a really cool manifold, and I really, really like working with 321 stainless, as I'm sure if you guys have been around for any period of time, you can attest to that. Wastegate wise, they're switching up from the tile wastegates they had before to these Turbo Smart 40mm comp gate wastegates. So I'll be using these, the wastegate flanges and everything else that come with the Turbo Smart wastegates to fashion the new wastegate provisioning on the new collector, so on and so forth. This should be, or this will be, a cool manifold project, one I'm looking forward to, and it's always cool to have the opportunity to build parts for a car of that caliber. So, where do we start with a manifold build like this? I featured a number of manifold builds on this channel, including the first manifold that I built for the Demon. And we're going to start at the same place that I always do, which is the merge collector. And I'll have to do some things a little bit differently with this collector as opposed to the ones that I've built before. As you see, the design here is a little bit different, but not anything crazy or too crazy, not anything out of the realm of possibility. So I'll have to do some math and some figuring to come up with the cut angles and everything else that I need here. But again, that won't be the end of the world, and me sitting here talking about it isn't getting any work done. So let me set you guys on the tripod, get some tools together, get some measurements taken, and let's get started making this new collector. Alright, so I've gone ahead and transferred over the cut angle, or at least what I can determine is the cut angle of the collector off of the original Red Demon manifold. So I have my collector cutting fixture fastened down. Pretty sure I tightened the rear set bolt. Yeah, it's tight. And at this point, I'm ready to make my cuts. So I'll know pretty quickly as I do this if my angle is correct or not. But the only thing to do, and I have enough pipe here for a couple of attempts, but the only thing to do really at this point is to make our initial cuts. So I need to figure out what my length of feed is, which will go, I don't know, something like that, probably to start. That is roughly 4 1/4. So that should be good to go. And now the only thing to do is tighten down the upper set bolt and start making cuts. Now when you're making 4-cylinder twin scroll manifolds or twin scroll collectors, they're probably about the easiest collectors that you could possibly cut, as there's no rotation in between each of the primary pipes, or each of the pipes for the collector. If you think about it, you're just building two 2-into-1 collectors essentially. So a 2-into-1 collector, you make one cut on one piece, one cut on another piece, and provided that your cuts are even and equal, everything will fit up and you'll have a piece that just kind of looks like a V, just 2 pieces, like I'm mimicking with my hands right here. With all that being said, let's go ahead and make these initial cuts, and then we can see if everything's good to go, if I've done everything correctly. Red Demon's 2 collector halves are all welded up, it's time to figure out the wastegate locations and fixture those. So what we have so far is a mild steel T4 flange, just an extra one I had laying around, as well as 2 38 or 40 millimeter V-band flanges. And what I'm going to do is fixture these 2 wastegate locations so that way I can transfer them over to the new manifold and everything will be good to go that way. So I also pulled the TurboSmart gates out of their boxes, and I'm always really impressed with the quality of TurboSmart products, and these are no exception. These are also compressed gas wastegates, as you can see under comp gate right there on the top. And what a compressed gas wastegate is essentially a wastegate with an inverted diaphragm. So you are applying pressure to the top side of the wastegate, whether that be CO2 or, like I have in the Mark IV, an actual onboard air system. But either way, the point is, rather than relying on pressure on the bottom side of the wastegate to open or pressure on the top to close it, you have a really light spring pack in these wastegates, and it applies pressure just to the top side. So that way you have essentially an unlimited boost curve, within reason obviously, and with it having a very light spring pack in it, they can be very fast responding as well. So I'm glad to see them going over to this style of wastegate as opposed to what they had before. But in any case, we need to go ahead and fixture these wastegate locations, which just involves bending up some bars, welding them to each of these wastegate flanges, and then we should be good to go at that point in time. Well, easy enough. The wastegate location fixture for the Red Demon's manifold is now completed. So fixtures like this don't need to be anything too fancy or too special. They just need to keep your flange locations in the same spot. So with this fixture, if I can do this with one hand, if I slide it into place, you can see that everything fits up pretty nicely, fits up pretty well, and that will serve me very well as I get the wastegate locations dialed in on this manifold. So at this point, I now need to take my 2 collector halves, which are right here, and I need to put them onto our turbine flange, as that is kind of the next thing that needs to be done before anything else can happen. So this shouldn't be all too bad. I think what I'll end up doing is taking the collector halves and kind of holding them up onto the manifold like so, and marking out where on the collector half itself it would sit on the flange. From there I can mark that out on each half of the collector. I can cut and fit and do all of that, get everything dialed in onto the flange, and then it will be time to weld them and get the wastegate stuff squared away. I'm not sure if it will exactly happen in that order or not, but we will see here in a little bit as I proceed with this manifold build. The collector for the Demon's new manifold is all completed aside from 3 operations. So the first that we are going to knock out is a reinforcement gusset that ties both of the wastegate provisions into the side of the turbine flange. Now you can see how they did this on the old manifold, and I did something similar on the last manifold I made for them. But we just need to simply come in and make a sheet metal gusset, ties these two to the turbine flange, and just provides that little bit of extra structural support. Secondly, we need to add the number 4 AN bung on the backside of the collector, so that way they can accurately sample back pressure and make sure that everything is good to go that way. And once those 2 things are added to the collector, the final order of business is to sand the mating side of the T4 flange, and then the collector will be ready to go into service and ready to be the heart of this manifold. So like I said, I'm going to start with the gusset first, as that's the most difficult, and we will work our way in a descending order of difficulty down to just simply sanding the flange at the end of this. Just like that, the Red Demon's new merge collector is completed. So we have twin Turbo Smart 40mm wastegate provisioning. We have the number 4 bung on this side of the collector for back pressure sensing. We have collector geometry that very, very closely mimics the geometry on the manifold that I'm basing this one off of. And most importantly, we have a sanded flat turbine flange. Everything is good to go. The collector's welded both inside and outside. And this thing is ready to be the heart of their new exhaust manifold. So I think at this point, with the collector being completed, this is a good place to leave off for this episode. So in the next episode, we'll go ahead and at least build the primaries for the manifold, maybe even finish the manifold up. We'll go ahead, or I'll wait and see what the runtime is and everything else as I'm filming that video. But for right now, the plan is to go at that manifold pretty much 100% starting for me tomorrow, and you guys will see it next week. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. So thank you guys, as always, for coming along on all these different journeys and all of these different adventures with me. Whether we're working on Toyotas, whether we're building manifolds for record-setting DSMs, or anything else that you guys have seen on the channel so far, all this stuff is incredibly interesting and incredibly fun to me. I hope that you guys are enjoying the time that you spend with me here each week, and I hope that you're looking forward to what is to come in the future. We have big things coming up with the SC, namely knocking out the new cooling system for the car, wiring in the new solid-state relay for the fuel pump, and getting this thing wrapped up the rest of the way. So that way, come springtime especially, but even if I get a nice day or two here in the middle of winter, I can take the car out, start doing some street tuning with it, and most importantly, just enjoy the car after such a long time of it sitting dormant. We have big things to do on the Mark IV. The Mark II, for all intents and purposes, is wrapped up, minus a few little tune odds and ends, which Bob and I will knock out on that thing in the very near future. And the big looming one is the Aristo back over there, and I can't wait to get started on that thing. But those are all things to look forward to in the future. Right now we're wrapping this one up, obviously, and we need to finish the Demon Manifold before any of that other work happens. So with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here for today so I can rest, recuperate, and hit it strong tomorrow. So as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, check out the website for manifolds, for merch, for all things good that way, including my new MCB collection. I currently have hoodies, sweaters, jackets, and shoes available, and I have more items coming in the very near future. So if any of those things speak to you and you'd like to add them to your collection, you can find them in the MCB collection link in the description below. And if none of that stuff does speak to you, well, hopefully I'll offer something in the future that does. And even if not, I thank you very much for your viewership and your support. But with all of those things being said, that will be the end of this one, and I will see you guys in the next episode.